What if a flat tire on a lonely Georgia road could change a millionaire's life forever? Meet Nathan Carter, a tech mogul whose world of wealth and control crumbles when a 13-year-old boy's selfless act of kindness shows her what truly matters. This is a story of connection, heart, and the power of giving back, a journey that'll leave you inspired. Watch until the end to see how one small deed sparks a lifetime of change. And if it moves you, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more stories that touch the soul. What do you do when the world you've built on control and cash suddenly leaves you stranded on a dusty road with nothing but a flat tire and a fading signal? Nathan Carter, a 42-year-old powerhouse from Atlanta, Georgia, was about to find out. She gripped the wheel of her sleek Mercedes, her manicured nails tapping impatiently as the rural road near Macon stretched endlessly before her, flanked by swaying grass and the hum of cicadas in the summer heat. A tech mogul with a schedule tighter than her tailored blazer, Nathan was racing to a high-stakes meeting, one that could seal her company's next big deal. But then came the jolt, a jarring thud, followed by the sickening thump, thump, thump of a shredded tire. "You've got to be kidding me," she muttered, her voice sharp with frustration as she pulled over, dust swirling around her luxury car like a cruel taunt. Stepping out, the Georgia heat hit her like a wave, her heels sinking slightly into the gravel as she adjusted her silk blouse. Nathan stared at the ruined tire rubber peeled back like a bad metaphor for her unraveling day. Her phone, predictably, showed no bars. She cursed under her breath, the irony stinging. A woman who could command boardrooms now stood helpless, miles from civilization, with no assistant to fix this mess. In her world, problems were solved with money, not grit, and she'd never had to change a tire herself. A flicker of panic tightened her chest. She couldn't afford to miss this meeting, not when her reputation was on the line. Then, a silhouette emerged on the horizon, a small figure, pedaling toward her on a rusty bike. It was Isaiah Brooks, a 13-year-old black kid with a faded Braves t-shirt and a determined glint in his eyes. "Hey, ma'am, you got car trouble?" he called out, hopping off his bike with a confidence that caught Nathan off guard. She hesitated, her city instincts wary, but nodded. "Flat tire. I don't know how to fix it." Isaiah grinned, dropping to his knees beside the wheel. "I can help. My uncle taught me how." As he rummaged for the spare, Nathan watched, a mix of relief and unease swirling inside her. This kid, with his scuffed sneakers and genuine smile, was about to shift her world in ways she couldn't yet fathom. Fantik Neudung. Back in the glassy glow of her Atlanta penthouse, Nathan Carter should have felt like a queen returning to her throne, but instead, she felt like a puzzle with a missing piece. The hum of the city buzzed outside her floor-to-ceiling windows, but her mind was stuck on that dusty road near Macon, replaying the image of a 13-year-old boy with a rusty bike and a smile brighter than the Georgia sun. Isaiah Brooks had fixed her tire, waved off her money, and pedaled away with a casual, "Take care, ma'am," as if kindness were as easy as breathing. For Nathan, a tech mogul who'd built an empire on deals and dollars, that moment clung to her like a shadow she couldn't shake. She'd always believed everything had a price, every favor, every handshake, but Isaiah's selflessness cracked that belief wide open, leaving her restless in a way she couldn't name. That evening, Nathan sat at her marble dining table, her plate of grilled salmon untouched as her husband Mark recounted his day. "You're quiet tonight," he said, his brow furrowing as he studied her. "Everything okay?" Nathan forced a smile, but her voice betrayed her. I had a flat tire on the way to Macon today," she started, her words hesitant, like she was stepping into uncharted waters. "This kid Isaiah showed up out of nowhere, fixed it like it was nothing, didn't take a dime." Mark raised an eyebrow, leaning back in his chair. "That's rare these days. A kid like that just helping for free?" Nathan nodded, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "I offered him money more than enough, but he just smiled and left. Said he didn't need it." Her voice trembled slightly, a mix of awe and unease. She'd never met someone who didn't want something in return, and the purity of Isaiah's act felt like a mirror reflecting her own emptiness of life, polished on the outside but hollow within. Sleep eluded her that night, the city lights casting restless shadows on her ceiling. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Isaiah's grin, heard his gentle, "Take care," and felt the weight of the bills she'd held out, useless in her hand. It wasn't just gratitude that kept her awake, it was a gnawing sense of incompletion. In her world, debts were paid, scores were settled, but this debt felt different, deeper, like a whisper of something she'd lost long ago. By morning, Nathan knew and let it go. "I'm going back to Macon," she told Mark over coffee, her voice firm with a resolve she hadn't felt in years. "I need to find him." Mark looked at her, a knowing smile tugging at his lips. "Maybe you're not just looking for him, Nathan. Maybe you're looking for something else." She didn't answer, but as she grabbed her keys, her heart raced with a flicker of hope that finding Isaiah might help her find what she'd been missing all along. The early morning sun cast a golden haze over the rural roads near Macon, Georgia, as Nathan Carter's Mercedes rolled slowly along the familiar stretch where her life had taken an unexpected turn just a day ago. Her heart thumped with a mix of determination and nervous anticipation, the kind she hadn't felt since her first big pitch in a boardroom years ago. But this wasn't about sealing a deal or signing a contract. This was about something deeper, something she couldn't quite name but felt compelled to chase. Isaiah Brooks, the 13-year-old boy who'd fixed her tire without asking for a dime, had left an imprint on her soul that refused to fade. Nathan had spent her life building walls of wealth and control, but Isaiah's simple act of kindness had slipped through those walls like sunlight through a cracked window, illuminating a void she hadn't known was there. Now, as she scanned the horizon for a sign of the boy's rusty bike, she knew she had to find him not just to thank him, but to make sense of the restlessness that had kept her awake all night. The landscape looked different today, less daunting under the soft morning light, but Nathan's eyes were sharp, searching for any clue that might lead her to Isaiah. She slowed the car near the spot where her tire had blown out, her gaze catching on a small, weathered house set back from the road. It was modest, with peeling paint and a sagging porch, but there was a warmth to it, a clothesline strung with faded shirts, a child's tricycle tipped over in the yard, signs of a life lived with love despite the wear. Her instincts told her this was the place. Parking on the gravel shoulder, Nathan stepped out, smoothing her blouse as if preparing for a meeting, though her palms were clammy with uncertainty. She approached the house, her heels crunching softly on the dirt path, and knocked on the door, her breath catching as she waited. The door creaked open, revealing a woman in her late 30s with tired but kind eyes, her hair pulled back in a loose bun. She wore a simple sundress, and her expression shifted from curiosity to cautious surprise as she took in Nathan's polished appearance, the expensive watch glinting on her wrist, the sleek car parked in the distance. "Can I help you, ma'am?" the woman asked, her voice warm but guarded. Nathan swallowed, suddenly feeling out of place in her city armor. I'm looking for a boy, maybe 13? He helped me with my car yesterday, a flat tire. His name's Isaiah. I just wanted to thank him properly." The woman's face softened, a small smile tugging at her lips. "You must mean my son. I'm Evelyn Brooks," she said, stepping back slightly. "Isaiah, come here, baby. Someone's here for you." Footsteps pattered inside, and Isaiah appeared at the door, his eyes lighting up with recognition. "Hey, ma'am, you're back," he exclaimed, his grin as bright as Nathan remembered, though now it carried a hint of curiosity. Nathan felt a wave of relief wash over her, followed by a rush of emotion she couldn't quite place. Gratitude, yes, but also a strange sense of vulnerability. "Isaiah, I couldn't stop thinking about what you did for me yesterday," she began, her voice softer than she intended. "You helped me when I was stuck, and I didn't get the chance to thank you the way I wanted to. I'd like to do something for you, if that's okay for you and your family." Isaiah tilted his head, his smile never fading. "It was no big deal, ma'am. I just wanted to help," he said simply, echoing the words that had haunted Nathan all night. Evelyn watched the exchange, her expression a mix of pride and wariness. "That's awful kind of you, ma'am," she said, her tone gentle but firm. "But we don't need much. We get by." Nathan nodded, respecting the quiet dignity in Evelyn's voice, but she pressed on, her resolve firm. I understand, Miss Brooks, but I'd really like to help. I noticed your house could use a few repairs. The roof looks like it might be leaking, and maybe the plumbing could use some work. I'd like to take care of that for you. Not because I owe you, but because I want to. Her words hung in the air, raw and earnest, surprising even herself with their sincerity. She wasn't used to asking for permission to give. She was used to writing checks and walking away. But this felt different, personal, like a bridge she was building with her own hands. Isaiah glanced at his mom, his eyes wide with a flicker of excitement, though he stayed quiet, waiting for her response. Evelyn hesitated, her gaze drifting to the roof, where a patch of shingles had peeled away, then back to Nathan. She sighed softly, a mix of gratitude and reluctance in her eyes. We've never been the type to ask for help, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But I can see this means something to you, and, well, it'd mean a lot to us too. Nathan felt her chest loosen, a small smile breaking through her usual guarded demeanor. Thank you, Miss Brooks. I promise I'll make your while. Evelyn stepped aside, gesturing for Nathan to come in. Why don't you join us for breakfast? It's not much, but we'd love to have you. Nathan hesitated. Boardroom brunches were more her scene, but the warmth in Evelyn's voice was impossible to resist. She stepped inside, the scent of coffee and biscuits filling the small kitchen, a stark contrast to the sterile luxury of her Atlanta penthouse. As she sat at the worn wooden table, Isaiah chattering about his bike and Evelyn pouring her a mug of coffee, Nathan felt something shift inside her. It wasn't just about fixing a house, it was about connection, about stepping into a world where kindness wasn't a transaction but a gift. For the first time in years, she felt like she was exactly where she needed to be, and as she sipped her coffee, listening to Isaiah's laughter, she knew this was only the beginning of something bigger than she'd ever imagined. The Georgia sun climbed higher over Macon, casting a warm glow on the little house that was starting to feel like a second home to Nathan Carter. It had been a week since she'd first knocked on Evelyn Brooks' door, driven by a need to repay Isaiah's kindness. But now, as she parked her Mercedes beside a pickup truck loaded with lumber, she realized this journey was becoming so much more. The once sagging porch of the Brooks home was now a hive of activity workers in worn jeans and safety vests, hammered nails, measured boards, and called out instructions over the hum of a generator. Nathan stepped out, her heels swapped for sneakers she hadn't worn since college, a practical choice that felt oddly liberating. She'd hired a small crew to fix the house, starting with the leaky roof and the temperamental plumbing, but what surprised her most was how much she wanted to be part of the process, not just as a benefactor writing checks, but as someone who rolled up her sleeves and got her hands dirty. Isaiah bounded out of the house, his grin as wide as the horizon, his Braves t-shirt already dusted with sawdust. "Miss Nathan, you're here," he shouted, waving a hammer like it was a trophy. Nathan couldn't help but smile. The boy's energy infectious in a way that made her forget the stress of her Atlanta boardrooms. "Wouldn't miss it, Isaiah," she replied, ruffling his hair as he skidded to a stop in front of her. "What's the plan for today?" Isaiah's eyes sparkled with excitement. "We're fixing the roof first, Greg says it's the worst part. Then the pipes in the kitchen. Want to help?" Nathan hesitated, a flicker of self-doubt creeping in. She'd never held a hammer in her life, let alone climbed a ladder. But the eager look on Isaiah's face was enough to push her forward. "Let's do it," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. Greg, the burly foreman with a beard that seemed to hold a lifetime of stories, waved her over. "Miss Carter, you sure you're up for this?" he asked, his tone teasing but kind. "Wouldn't want to mess up that fancy manicure." Nathan laughed, a genuine sound that felt foreign to her own ears. "I think I'll survive, Greg. Show me what to do." He handed her a pair of work gloves and pointed to a stack of shingles. "Start by passing these up the ladder. We'll get you hammering soon enough." Nathan nodded, slipping on the gloves, the rough fabric a stark contrast to the silk blouses she was used to. As she carried the shingles to the ladder, her muscles straining under the unfamiliar weight, she felt a strange sense of accomplishment, a feeling she hadn't known she was craving. The day unfolded in a rhythm of sweat and laughter, the crew working steadily while Isaiah darted around, handing tools, fetching water, and occasionally sneaking a peek at the progress. Nathan found herself climbing the ladder to pass supplies, her initial nervousness giving way to a quiet confidence as Greg guided her. "You're a natural, Miss Carter," he said after she successfully handed up a bundle of shingles without dropping a single one. Nathan grinned, wiping sweat from her brow. "Never thought I'd hear that," she admitted, her voice tinged with pride. But it wasn't just the physical work that moved Harriet, was the way Isaiah and Evelyn made her feel like part of something bigger. At lunchtime, Evelyn brought out a tray of sandwiches and sweet tea, her smile as warm as the sun above. "Y'all are doing wonders out here," she said, her eyes lingering on the patched roof. "I don't know how to thank you, Miss Nathan." Nathan shook her head, taking a sip of the tea, the sweetness grounding her in the moment. "You don't need to thank me, Miss Brooks. I'm the one who's grateful to be here." As the afternoon wore on, Nathan found herself working alongside Isaiah to fix a section of the kitchen plumbing. The pipes had been a nightmare, leaking every time the sink was used, but with Greg's guidance, they replaced a rusted section with a new one. Isaiah held the flashlight, his face scrunched in concentration, while Nathan tightened the fittings, her hands clumsy but determined. When the water finally ran without a drip, Isaiah let out a whoop of joy, high-fiving Nathan with a force that nearly knocked her over. "We did it, Miss Nathan. No more leaks," he cheered, his laughter echoing through the small kitchen. Nathan felt her heart swell, the boy's joy seeping into her like a balm she hadn't known she needed. For the first time in years, she wasn't chasing a profit or a promotion, she was chasing a feeling, one that came from building something real, something that mattered. By the time the sun began to dip below the horizon, the crew had made significant progress. The roof was nearly done, the plumbing was functional, and the house already looked sturdier, more alive. Nathan stood back, her hands on her hips, watching as Isaiah ran to test the kitchen sink one more time, his laughter ringing out when the water flowed smoothly. Evelyn joined her, her eyes misty as she took in the changes. "You've given us more than a house, Miss Nathan," she said softly. "You've given us hope." Nathan turned to her, her throat tight with emotion. "And you've given me something I didn't even know I needed," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "A family." As the crew packed up for the day, Nathan lingered, watching Isaiah chase fireflies in the yard, his silhouette glowing in the twilight. She'd come here to repay a debt, but now she understood that this wasn't about settling a score, it was about connection, about finding a piece of herself she'd lost in the grind of her city life. For the first time in a long time, Nathan felt truly alive. And as she climbed into her car, she knew she'd be back tomorrow. Not out of obligation, but because this little house, and the people in it, had become her sanctuary. The golden hues of a late Macon afternoon bathed the Brookses' house in a glow that seemed almost magical, as if the very walls were celebrating their transformation. Nathan Carter stood on the newly rebuilt porch, her sneakers dusted with the day's work, her heart pounding with a mix of pride and nervous anticipation. It had been 3 weeks since she'd first set foot here, driven by a need to repay a 13-year-old boy's kindness. But now, as she watched the last of the crew pack up their tools, she knew this journey had reshaped her in ways she'd never imagined. The house, once a worn-down shell with a leaky roof and creaky floors, now stood sturdy and vibrant, freshly painted in a soft cream, with new windows that caught the sunlight and a roof that could withstand any storm. The kitchen plumbing no longer leaked, the floors were solid, and Isaiah's room had become a haven of his own, complete with a desk and a bed that didn't sag. But for Nathan, the real transformation wasn't in the bricks and boards it was in the bond she'd forged with Isaiah and his mother, Evelyn, a bond that felt more like family than anything she'd known in her polished Atlanta life. The crew had just finished the final touches, installing a small set of shelves in the living room for Evelyn's cherished keepsakes, and Greg, the foreman, gave Nathan a nod as he wiped his hands on his jeans. "It's done, Miss Carter," he said, his voice gruff but warm. "This place looks brand new. You should be proud." Nathan smiled, her throat tightening with emotion. "I am, Greg, but I couldn't have done it without you and the guys." "Thank you." Greg tipped his cap, a rare grin breaking through his weathered face, before heading to his truck with the crew, leaving Nathan alone with the Brooks family in the quiet of the evening. Isaiah burst out of the house, his eyes wide with excitement as he ran to Nathan, his sneakers kicking up dust. "Miss Nathan, come see my room again. It's so cool now," he exclaimed, grabbing her hand and pulling her inside with a force that made her laugh, a sound that had become more natural to her over these weeks. She followed him through the freshly painted living room, past the new shelves where Evelyn's keepsake faded photo of her parents. A small porcelain angel now sat proudly, and into Isaiah's room. The space was transformed. The ceiling no longer leaked. The walls were painted a bright blue he'd picked out himself, and the desk by the window held a stack of schoolbooks, a testament to his dreams. "Look," Isaiah said, pointing to the desk. "I can do my homework here now, and it's all mine." Nathan's heart swelled at the pure joy in his voice, her eyes misting as she nodded. "It's perfect, Isaiah. You deserve every bit of this." Evelyn joined them, her hands clasped in front of her eyes shimmering with gratitude as she took in the room. "I can't believe this is our home," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Miss Nathan, you've given us so much more than we ever thought possible." Nathan turned to her, her own emotions threatening to spill over. She'd come here to repay a debt, but now she realized that what she'd gained was far greater than what she'd given. "Miss Brooks, I have one more thing for you both," she said, her voice steady despite the lump in her throat. She reached into her bag and pulled out a crisp envelope, handing it to Evelyn with a gentle smile. "This is for Isaiah." Evelyn's hands trembled as she opened the envelope, her eyes scanning the documents inside. Her breath caught, and she looked up at Nathan, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Miss Nathan, a trust fund? For Isaiah's college?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathan nodded, her gaze shifting to Isaiah, who was staring at the papers with wide, disbelieving eyes. "Yes," Nathan said softly. "I want Isaiah to have every opportunity to chase his dreams, whether that's college or whatever path he chooses. He's a bright kid, and I believe in him." Isaiah's mouth fell open, his voice small but filled with wonder. "You mean I can go to college? For real?" Nathan knelt down to his level, her eyes meeting his. "For real, Isaiah. You can do anything you set your mind to, and I want to make sure you have the chance to do it." Evelyn clutched the envelope to her chest, her tears falling freely now. "This is too much, Miss Nathan," she said, her voice breaking. "We can't accept this." But Nathan shook her head, her own eyes glistening. "It's not too much, Miss Brooks. You and Isaiah have given me more than I can ever repay. I came here thinking I was just fixing a house, but you gave me a family, a real family. This is my way of saying thank you." Isaiah stepped forward, wrapping his arms around Nathan in a sudden, fierce hug, his face buried in her shoulder. "Thank you, Miss Nathan," he whispered, his voice muffled but raw with emotion. "Thank you so much." Nathan hugged him back, her heart full in a way she'd never thought possible, the warmth of his embrace melting away the last of the walls she'd spent years building. Evelyn wiped her eyes, a shaky smile breaking through her tears. "You've changed our lives, Miss Nathan," she said, her voice steadying as she reached out to touch Nathan's arm. "Not just with the house or this fund, but with your heart." Nathan met her gaze, her voice soft but firm. "And you've changed mine, Miss Brooks. More than you'll ever know. I used to think money could solve everything, that success was all that mattered. But Isaiah taught me something I'd forgotten, that kindness, connection, those are the things that make life worth living. I didn't just fix a house for you, I found a home for myself." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the transformed house, Nathan, Isaiah, and Evelyn stood together on the porch, the air filled with a quiet sense of completion. Nathan looked at the boy who'd started it all with a simple act of kindness. And she knew this moment would stay with her forever, a reminder of what truly mattered. She'd come to Macon to settle a debt, but she was leaving with a family, a purpose, and a heart that finally felt whole. The air in Macon, Georgia, buzzed with a warmth that went beyond the late summer sun as neighbors gathered in the yard of the Brooks' newly renovated home, their voices blending into a symphony of laughter and shared stories. Nathan Carter stood on the porch, a glass of lemonade in her hand, watching the scene unfold with a fullness in her heart she'd never known before. Just a month ago, she'd been a stranger here, a tech mogul from Atlanta whose life revolved around boardrooms and balance sheets. But now, as she looked out at the crowd, kids chasing each other through the grass, adults sharing plates of homemade peach cobbler, and Isaiah Brooks darting between them with a grin that lit up the evening. She felt like she belonged. The house, now a beacon of hope with its fresh paint and sturdy walls, had become more than a project. It had become a bridge between two worlds, a testament to the power of kindness and connection. Inside, the living room was alive with chatter as neighbors admired the changes: the new shelves holding Evelyn's keepsakes, the leak-free ceiling, the vibrant blue of Isaiah's room visible through the open door. Evelyn moved through the crowd, her smile radiant as she accepted hugs and words of congratulations, her hands occasionally brushing the edge of the trust fund papers Nathan had given her, now tucked safely in a drawer. Nathan watched her, a quiet pride swelling in her chest. This gathering wasn't just a celebration of a renovated house, it was a celebration of community, of the way one small act of kindness had rippled outward, bringing people together in a way Nathan had never thought possible. She'd spent years chasing success, measuring her worth in dollars and deals. But here, surrounded by the warmth of these strangers who'd welcomed her like family, she realized how hollow that chase had been. Isaiah ran up to her, his face flushed with excitement, a piece of cobbler in his hand. "Miss Nathan, you gotta try this. Mrs. Jenkins made it," he said, thrusting the plate toward her. Nathan laughed, taking a bite, the sweetness of the peaches bursting on her tongue like a memory of childhood summers she'd long forgotten. "It's delicious, Isaiah," she said, her voice soft with affection. He grinned, then grew serious, his young eyes searching hers. "Miss Nathan, I've been thinking a lot," he began, his voice steady despite his age. "When I grow up, I want to help people like you helped us. I want to fix things, houses, lives, whatever people need. You showed me that's what matters." Nathan's breath caught, her eyes misting as she knelt down to his level. "You're already doing that, Isaiah," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You helped me when I was stuck, not just with my tire but with my heart. You reminded me what it means to care, to connect. You're going to do amazing things, I know it." Evelyn joined them, resting a hand on Isaiah's shoulder, her gaze soft as she looked at Nathan. "He's right, you know," she said, her voice warm. "You've given us more than a house or a future, you've given us a family. We'll always be grateful for you, Miss Nathan." Nathan stood, her heart swelling as she met Evelyn's eyes. "And I'll always be grateful for you," she replied, her voice steady but filled with feeling. "I came here thinking I was repaying a debt, but I found something I didn't even know I was looking for. In Atlanta, I had everything: money, success, a penthouse with a view, but I was lonely. I didn't know what a real family felt like until I met you and Isaiah. You taught me that kindness isn't a transaction. It's a gift that keeps giving, one that changes lives in ways we can't predict." As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, the gathering began to wind down. Neighbors said their goodbyes, leaving behind empty plates and promises to visit again soon. Nathan, Isaiah, and Evelyn stood together on the porch, watching the last car drive away, the quiet of the evening settling around them like a gentle embrace. Nathan looked down at Isaiah, his small hand slipping into hers, and then at Evelyn, whose smile held a lifetime of resilience and love. In that moment, Nathan knew this was where she was meant to be, not in a boardroom, not behind a desk, but here, with the family she'd found through a flat tire and a boy's selfless heart. Reflecting on her journey, Nathan realized the true lesson. "I thought success was about what I could achieve for myself, but Isaiah showed me it's about what we can do for each other. Kindness doesn't just fix a moment, it builds a future." This experience had resolved her inner conflict, shifting her from a life of isolation to one of connection, teaching her that the greatest wealth lies in the bonds we create, not the money we earn. And so, a flat tire on a dusty Macon road became the start of something beautiful, reminder that the smallest acts of kindness can spark the greatest change. Nathan, Isaiah, and Evelyn found a family in each other, proving that true value lies in the love we give and the lives we touch. This story isn't just about a house or a trust fund, it's about the heart's capacity to heal, to connect, to grow. Let their journey inspire you to look for the beauty in the unexpected, to extend a hand when someone's stranded, because you never know how one moment of kindness might change a life, yours included. If this story warmed your heart, give it a like. Drop a comment sharing your own stories of kindness, And hit that subscribe button to join us for more inspiring tales that remind us what truly matters. There's so much more to come, don't miss it.